Afternoon, everyone. I'm the Honorable Ron Villanueva. I'm joined with a distinguished guest, a dear friend. She's a true fighter for Virginia. Her name is Senator Amanda Chase, and she's running for the nomination for the Republican nomination for governor in this year's November 2021 elections. Uh, I remember Amanda as a true fighter, always principled and working for the common person. And that's been her reputation since day one. And she is definitely one of the front runners for the nomination now. She has all of her opponents scrambling, and she has the Democratic side kind of worried that she's going to be the winner, and then ultimately she hopes to win in November. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for being on the Coastal Virginia Civic Engagement platform.
Ron, I'm so honored to be on here and so proud of you, my friend, for heading up what I consider one of the most important topics we have in Virginia, and that's small business, and talking about policies that are actually going to create an environment that is conducive to make everyday average Virginians prosperous. I mean, the backbone of our economy here in Virginia are small businesses, like the one that my husband and I have had a number of businesses since we've been married, and we've been married for 28 years, Ron, 28 years. And listen, my husband is super smart. We've had payroll companies, we've had computer businesses, we've had a financial services business together. Currently, my boys have a landscaping business that they run, very prosperous. In fact, my boys just at age 21 and 22 bought their very first home. So I'm super, super excited about what you're doing. Very proud of you for talking about small business, because a lot of people in this environment feel very frustrated and despondent, quite honestly.
Well, Amanda, we're honored that you're on our show, and I consider you a dear friend. Amanda, let's just jump right straight into it. So COVID has impacted everyone. It's impacted our businesses and our communities. And, you and I talked about this before. Economic development in Virginia prior to the COVID crisis was always chasing the big whale like Amazon or, some, Rolls Royce or something like that. And you hit the nail on the head where small businesses, now we're finding out, stimulus money is going to these businesses to stay afloat, but they are the true backbone of the economy. How do we, under your administration, how can we be successful in promoting small businesses?
Well, listen, I can talk to you about what I've already done as a state senator to help small business, even to predict success of what I'm going to do in the future. But I know that Republicans talk about this, and it is true. I mean, one of the biggest, broadest things we do is I voted against every single tax increase that's ever come before the General Assembly. I have voted against every single fee increase, every single new regulation. In fact, I passed a bill that was called the Regulatory Red Tape Bill that actually was signed into law under a Democratic governor. Yes, I do get things done. And since that point, as a pilot program, before new regulation can be implemented, they have to get rid of two. So I'm all about eliminating these extra cost of doing business, cost of goods sold, cost of doing business to our small businesses. It just adds to the cost of doing business. I would tell you, yes, I did graduate from Virginia Tech with a degree in business. Yes, I did double major in corporate finance and business management, but I have real world experience from all these businesses that my husband and I have had. So it's important that we create an environment for small business. They need appropriate staffing. One of the biggest concerns that I hear from small business owners who are in the hospitality industry is that workers are being paid more to stay home and incentivized to stay home, and they're not going to work. That's what happened under COVID. We also saw the Virginia Department of Health weaponized by the governor to implement and enforce these onerous mask mandates. Day one of the Chase administration, I'm getting rid of the mask mandates. I'm going to make your face great again. And we're going to get rid of those mask mandates. We're going to stop badgering businesses. I think if we just day number one, get rid of these executive orders, get rid of the mask mandates, get rid of all these minimums. The government and the governor should never be choosing which businesses are winners and losers, whether we're talking about determining which businesses are considered essential or non-essential, or even before COVID, if we're talking about Go Virginia, or we're talking about incentive money. You mentioned Amazon a little bit earlier. The Commonwealth of Virginia continues just to dole out taxpayer money, picking winners and losers. It's not applied equitably to all businesses, but they will give thousands of dollars that could go toward road infrastructure, schools, you name it, the core functions of government. But that's not what Virginia's government's doing. They're giving it to companies like Amazon. They were going to come here anyway, that. But my concern is that we're equitable, that we're fair. The government's not picking winners and losers. And to that, I would also say, in addition to reducing the tax burden, reducing regulation, making sure that we don't use regulatory agencies to put a stranglehold on our businesses and create unnecessary burdens for our legislators, we need to get out of the way of business owners and do what they know how to do best. Ron, I actually introduced a bill that would lower our corporate income tax. It's currently at 6% here in Virginia. And to be equitable to everyone, I said, let's start off by lowering the corporate income tax to 2.5% so we can be competitive. At that point with North Carolina, North Carolina's already phased their corporate income tax out. And, companies that are looking at coming to the East Coast, they're not coming to Virginia. They're just not. And, if you remember back a while ago, we had issues with sequestration at the federal level, and a lot of employers in the Northern Virginia area, we saw where Virginia was, at one point we were the number one place to do business right before COVID hit. And I believe that was under President Trump's policies. People like myself, people like President Trump, who understand business, we understand fiscal policy, we understand what drives business. If we prosper all businesses, we get rid of these onerous regulations, everyone rises, no matter what your socioeconomic background, no matter what, whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're a minority, you're a woman, a man. President Trump lifted all of these folks up because these policies work for all groups, no matter what background you're from. And that's what it's going to be like under a Chase administration. We're going to reopen our businesses. We're going to reopen our schools this fall, by the way. And, I actually passed legislation in the General Assembly that said that we're going to eliminate the King's Dominion rule that says you can't open until after Labor Day. That was my bill last year. And thank God it was just in time, because now we can actually open schools earlier this year, earlier than what we could. We can open schools prior to Labor Day, which I think is very important, and get our kids back in school. If kids are back in school, moms and dads can focus on working. We've got parents right now who are forced trying to educate their kids full time at school. They were forced. I chose to homeschool my kids for a short period of time, but these parents are being forced to homeschool their kids and work at the same time. And what happens if you can't work at home, Ron? It's not going to work. We have a lot of parents who are in the healthcare industry, a lot of single parents. And so in order to get our workforce back to work, we have to reopen our schools.
Man, it's incredible that, you've got a strong business resume for sure. Well educated, you've met payrolls before, you've had your ups and downs, but that seems kind of lost in today's political world, where everyone's focused so much on the partisanship side. They're not focused on the solution side, and you bring a lot of solutions. Over the past couple of years, you've seen definitely a dramatic change in policy, going from Republican to Democrat. You've seen like new industries, for instance, casino and gambling and online betting, and the Queen of Skills initiatives. Do you see that as a a strong industry to get into? Do you see the economic development from those industries? I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Amanda?
I think it's a Trojan horse, Ron. I think it's a bad idea, and I'll tell you why. We need to focus on bringing new technology to Virginia. Listen, I am unapologetically against these casinos coming to Virginia. I think they're bad for Virginia. They bring the wrong types of, they're really not bringing a bunch of jobs. They're bringing a bunch of trouble to Virginia is what they're doing. And, if you look at the states that have opened these casinos and gambling, you're not really adding new jobs. I mean, you might be bringing in some revenue, but it's the people that can afford it the least. We need to focus on diversification of our economy. And how do we do that? We do that by focusing on broadband. We have whole swaths of Virginia that don't have one of what I consider a basic utility, which is broadband, internet access. There are parts of the state. I actually, the place that we stayed in Draper, Virginia, had absolutely terrible internet service. And I'm thinking, if we could have consistent and reliable broadband in every part of Virginia, the sky's the limit. Whatever your heart's desire is, every individual, I mean, we've got this open wide web economy. Whatever your passion, whatever you're interested in, you can make a business out of it. You can make a viable business out of it anywhere in the state of Virginia, anywhere in the country, if you have reliable internet. That's where we get, and where we should get, our revenue. And to say that we're going to turn to casinos, I can point to, I could call out a number of names right here, right on the interview right now, and I know their names, and a lot of these legislators call on them and ask for large dollar donations. I'm not going to say their names right now, Ron, but they're the ones driving this terrible legislation, which is morally disrupting the Virginia way. We're better than that, and we don't need those casinos in Virginia. Get rid of them. Listen, send them to another state. We can diversify our economy and use the internet. And I don't believe that the folks that are saying that we need to have casinos in Virginia are really looking out for the best interest of Virginians. They're looking to pad their own pocket. And Ron, I've talked a lot about the pay-to-play system in Richmond, where legislators are actually having to pay caucus dues of over 10 grand a year. And I'm the only one talking about this, Ron. And it makes the legislator beholden to the PACs and the lobbyists. But these the lobbyists in the PAC community, they're the ones that are controlling the lobbyists. They're controlling the policies here in Virginia. It's not the people. Ron, as I've done 18 events across Virginia since I announced I was running for governor back in February of 2020, I have not found one person from normal, like we the people, who have said, I want a casino in my backyard. Not one. Now, if you can find one for me, I want you to give them my cell phone number and call me and, say, no, we want casinos. But the majority of people that I talk to who are real people that aren't, going to be making something out of this are not in favor of these casinos. It's the opportunists that see it as a way to make money off of the people that can afford it the least.
I think what Virginia needs to know about Amanda Chase is that she's an independent, she's a true conservative, but more importantly, she's a fighter for the people. When you talk about small business initiatives, you talked a little bit earlier about how the Northam administration has put executive orders that has made winners and losers. When you look at the hospitality industry as a whole in Virginia, like particularly wedding venues, there's no rhyme or reason on like the numbers. Where's the science in that? And everyone's scratching their head going, well, if you got X amount of people in a grocery store and you got X amount of people at an outdoor event, why not at a wedding venue? And these folks are hurting. So you're saying Virginia's open for business. It's going to take a little bit of time for Virginia to be open for business. So And you talked a little bit about putting tools into the tool bag for small businesses. Broadband is a perfect example. There's another one too. When we talk about higher ed, you talked a little bit about you being from Virginia Tech. Me and my wife, we have 4 kids. I mean, I'm sure you have kids, and man, the cost of college is astronomical, and you're shaking your head going, how can people afford that? How does higher ed and the funding and all that change under the Chase administration?
Well, I would say it's even more than just college. Of my 4 kids, I have 2 that have done the trades and 2 that have gone the college route. And so what we need to do is make sure that we have an education system that really, all kids are created differently, and you've got to stop putting a square peg in a round hole. Now, what do I mean by that? I think it starts at the elementary school level, making sure that we support school choice, making sure that whether we private school, homeschool, send our kids to a public school, they've all got to be the best. And it's important that that money follow the child. We've got some failing, crumbling public schools out there that are underperforming. And I think there needs to be some more competition out there, Ron. Yeah, each of these schools needs to strive to be the best. And if we have the money following the child, kids will be ready for college. They'll be ready for the trades. And we're already actually working on partnerships between local businesses and community colleges and local colleges for internships, doing apprenticeship trainings. Not every child should go to college. But if they want to go, really we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep college affordable. Now, I supported the tuition freeze a couple years ago, but I've also served on Senate Higher Ed, and I believe that the money that is spent on the state side should go towards actually educating our kids instead of building these Taj Mahals at these college. There's so much competition. I have a daughter that graduated from JMU, one that went to John Tyler, and I have another son at Liberty University. And there's so much, it's totally different than when my husband graduated from VCU. I graduated from Virginia Tech. Back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, it was about getting a good education. Now it's about competition, who's got the best facilities, who has the biggest buildings. We need to get back to education and why kids are going to college anyway. And, I would also say that you've got a few people, a few groups of people who are paying for college, and everybody else gets a scholarship. And so, everybody needs to either get a job, and we need to have some co-op type programs where people can work to help pay and offset their cost of college education. In fact, the problem that we have is that only some kids get these college scholarships, leaving the full burden of paying college, not only for you, but for everyone else, on the burden of just 20% of probably the whole population that goes to college. And so, I think we should have a lot of different options where kids can either work to make the money and then pay it back. But it's this whole the responsibility needs to, we need to look at how we're funding our colleges and our universities. And we can't continue down the same path that we are right now on as far as who is footing that bill. And we need to look more closely at who is able to get college scholarships. And it should be based on quantitative measurements. It should never be based on the color of a person's skin ever. You should be qualify based on metrics getting into these schools. And, we've reversed that, unfortunately. And, I know it's not popular to say this, Ron, but, I feel very strongly that we have government sponsored racism, even when it comes to Asian students who should be getting college acceptance, and they're not, because these colleges are having to meet these quotas. We need everybody that wants a shot at college education to be treated equally. And, it's unfortunately the way it is in Virginia. Some kids are treated more equally than others. And I think that we need to put an end to that.
Thank you for being honest on that, Amanda. Let's talk a little bit. I'm going to mention quick issues. Talk a little bit about these issues. Cannabis. How do you feel about that?
Well, I do not support the full legalization of marijuana. I have supported what we currently have, which is a pharmacy board regulated opportunity for folks who have Crohn's disease and cancer, in which you have THC oils that are predominantly reduced quantities, and it's supervisors oversight, just like any other drug. And I've supported that. I've actually voted for that. I do talk to many veterans who have a lot of pain, back injuries. I've talked to people who have Crohn's disease, children who have seizures, that this THC solution actually helps them. And I've voted for that. I would tell you there's 3 different categories. There's full-blown legalization of marijuana, which I don't support. And let me just tell you what our current Democratic governor has done. They have even gone so far as saying that we're going to go to these drug dealers that are currently getting our kids hooked on drugs, and we're going to, instead of arresting them and putting them in jail for distributing drugs to our kids, we, the government of Virginia, we're going to give them a small interest loan, a low interest loan. So now they can do so on the taxpayer's dime. Instead of it being illegal, it's now going to be a legal business in Virginia. And that is just for any mother or father out there who has young adults, the thought that we are going to turn in Virginia, instead of saying Virginia is for lovers, Virginia is for drug dealers. That's where we're going. And a Chase administration, look, I'm a mom first, and that's the wrong way. It's irresponsible. It's reckless what Governor Ralph Northam has done with the Democrats. That's wrong. And I think that we need to look to other states like Colorado and other states that have legalized marijuana and talk to law enforcement. The number of increased car fatalities, it's actually increased in these other states where they've legalized full-blown marijuana. Ron, I've gone to the jails in Chesterfield, and I've talked to a lot of the inmates who are there. Most of them, if not all of them, have said marijuana was their gateway drug to heroin and some of these other harder core drugs. And I think Virginia's heading off the cliff if we don't get.
So Amanda, you've talked to folks in prisons and jails, and
absolutely.
And you believe in second chances. So how do you? I hear you on the marijuana side of the house, where drug dealers and then they get loans and stuff, and but the folks that you talk to in jails, they want a pathway back. They want to give back to society again, be a great individual again. I mean, so what are your thoughts on that? How do you what's your thoughts on criminal justice reform in those regards?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that only the violent offenders are in jail. The violent offenders. I'm very concerned that there are some folks who are in jail that need to be providing for their families. Mm-hmm. They need to be doing that. We need to get those folks, we need to get them some help, and we need to get them off of the drugs. We need to get them back into society and becoming productive members of society. Listen, I have watched all of the hearings that we've had, the JLARC studies on decrim, and here's what I would tell you: in our court systems, they already give you, for your first offense, you're not going to go to jail over something like that. I'm really concerned that we as a society are trying to eliminate the stigma of marijuana usage. It's a message that we're sending to our kids, and we need to be very careful about what message we're sending to our kids. Do I believe in second chances? Absolutely. I believe in second and third chances too. And I feel like there are good people that have, there are good people out there who are productive members of society who we should not be putting in jail. And we need to take a look at that. But we also need to make sure that we're sending the right message to our kids. And that is, not what we've done here in Virginia. Basically, I think it's a $25 fine if you're caught with a small amount of marijuana. I think we've gone to the opposite end of the scale. And I'm very concerned about the message we're sending to our children, to young adults. I remember growing up in Virginia as an 11-year-old, I would never think about going anywhere near drugs because I didn't want to go to jail. And it was not considered the right thing to do. Now I have 4 young adults, age 19 to age 25. And anybody that's got young kids knows that it's widely available. It's widely available. And so, yes, we do, teach our kids at home, say no to drugs. But whenever the government lessens the penalty and sends a message, well, it's okay to do drugs now. I'm very concerned about the message that that's sending to our kids.
Amanda, thank you so much for giving us your thoughts on that. Minimum wage, small businesses, there's no small business that doesn't want to improve the wages of their employees. That's part of the whole free market system. But,
Right.
When you set a rate and then you dictate, how much your payroll is, it puts some obstacles in front of small business folks. What's your thoughts on minimum wage?
So it's not only my thoughts, but I voted against raising the minimum wage each and every time. And listen, the Democrats want to say this is a living wage. The minimum wage was never meant to be a living wage. It's a stepping stone for people, especially young folks, or people with little experience, to get that experience. It's an opportunity for employers to see how to give yourself an opportunity or a chance to prove yourself. Most of the employers that I talk to, and even in our own business, when people are doing well because of the law of supply and demand, if you want to keep good people, you have to pay them more, or they're going to go somewhere else. It just kind of works out. The free market principles work. They still work. And if you want to keep and retain good people, you have to pay so that you can keep them there. And I know my staff in here, they're saying, yes, please give me a raise, or I'm going to go somewhere else. But
so here's one of the things I admire about you. When I look at you and I've worked with you, I never considered you a female legislator. I always considered you a strong individual. Are you finding that out on the campaign trail? People are underestimating you and, not getting enough
I may be
respect there.
blonde, but I'm smart, and they don't think so. Apparently, I love it how they underestimate me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I would say. When I'm running for governor, I'm going to be ready day one. I have worked at such companies, what's called Capital One now. I was in management at Capital One. It used to be Signet Bank Card when I was there. I have worked at First North American National Bank, which used to be Circuit Cities Bank. I have worked for the Virginia Student Assistance Authorities under Governor Allen. I have worked at the Federal Reserve Bank in Richmond, all in management, all of these positions in management. I understand fiscal policy. Not only do I understand it from being book smart, if you will, from my education and my background at Virginia Tech, I've also done it in the real world. I understand how things work. And just even in the General Assembly, if people look at my voting record, I have 100% rating with the National Federation of Independent Businesses, and received award, I think in 2017. I think that was the last time I got an award with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. Now, where I depart ways with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce is, they want you to support Go Virginia. They want you to support giving incentive money and picking winners and losers. I'll never vote for that. I don't care what the score is that the Virginia Chamber will give you.
And I have to agree with you on that. I always thought Go Virginia was just a grab bag for the well-connected and the well-heeled.
That's all it is.
You go.
Have you gotten any money from them from your business? Because I know we certainly haven't. And I don't think we should. We
Right.
shouldn't. And it's legislators finding former business executives who are their buddies, and they get a stipend, and it's just it gives them power to pick which businesses are going to succeed and which ones are going to lose. Kirk Cox voted for that. I'm going to call people out. And voted for Medicaid expansion. If you want to talk about healthcare and helping people, we need to keep the cost of doing business low. And I also say I support right to work. I don't support a union state, which is another one of the big issues that we talk about in the General Assembly. We cannot continue to put burdens on small business and expect them to be able to stay in business. Eventually, it's not worth it anymore to these businesses. And by the way, I also want to tell you, I support our law enforcement and good public safety. I look at my hometown of Richmond, the capital, and Mayor Stoney, and yes, I'm calling you out by name, Mayor Stoney, and Governor Northam. They didn't even protect the small businesses and the storefronts. Legacy businesses being destroyed when the rioters and looters flooded our streets in Richmond. And instead of protecting the business, now our law enforcement are the best here in Virginia, and they know how to keep law and order. But when you have elected leaders who tell them to stand down and just allow the destruction to continue, that's crazy. And as Virginia's next governor, I won't tolerate that. If I have to call in the National Guard to get rid of these domestic terrorists and kick them out of the streets of Richmond and protect our small businesses and their storefronts and keeping their storefronts from being looted and rioting and thousands of dollars in inventory being stolen from them with no consequences. That's what's happened under Democratic leadership. You know why I'm going to win against Terry McAuliffe or whatever Democrat they're going to put forward? I'm going to remind everybody about their terrible failed policies. The Democrats are incompetent. Their leadership under the last 8 years, they have proven that they do not know how to lead. In fact, I think they're idiots. They don't even, my 19-year-old son would make a better governor than any Democrat because he has more common sense. Period.
Amanda, that's why people love you. You're so opinionated, and you speak your mind. How do folks get in touch with you, and how do they become a delegate to nominate you for governor?
Well, I am so glad you asked that question, Ron. They can go to my website, chase4va.com, and it's all spelled out, chase4va.com. And the thing to remember is that the date of the convention is going to be on Mother's Day weekend. See, that's why I know I'm going to win. It's going to be the best Mother's Day present ever. Saturday, May the 8th, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., you will go cast your vote at one of 37 locations across the state of Virginia, which will be determined by April the 24th. We'll know all the locations. But here's the thing. You must absolutely complete I know all of you who are watching this are already registered to vote, but that's not enough. The Republican State Central Committee has said that you need to sign up to be a delegate. So there's a second step. You also have to sign up to be a delegate. And the deadlines have either already passed or they're now. And I know in Virginia Beach by 5 o'clock, you on April the 9th, I remember it because it's my husband's birthday, you have to have your form turned in. Now, every single county, every single city in the Commonwealth has a different deadline. So you'll want to go to my website, chase4va.com. We have made this a simple process for you, step by step, what you need to do and when. And you simply look down to your city and you see when the deadline is, when you need to turn your form in, get it done. But listen, if we want to make Virginia great again, and I believe that we can and that we will under Chase administration, you have to not be lazy. You have to go to the trouble to fill the form out and turn it in by the deadline. I believe with all my heart that I am the very person, and I'm leading by double digits in all of the polls. There's not one poll that's come back that I'm not winning by double digits. And I know that Terry McAuliffe is terrified because he knows he's going to have to run against me. And week number 2 after the primary, he's finished. And then I'm going to finish. And, you know, I'm the people's governor. I'm winning independents. I'm winning Democrats. I'm winning Republicans because they're tired of politicians. I will be the first people's governor. And yes, I am seeking the Republican nomination. And yes, I'm very independent minded, but I'm saying what every last person across Virginia is saying. I'm saying that which politicians are afraid to say. And the only way that we're going to correct and keep from going off the cliff that we're headed down is to stop being so politically correct, saying those things that need to be said so we can actually get the job done and fix it. I'm the only one brave enough to do that, and I will win.
Amanda Chase, state senator, great person and a fighter for the people. She wants to win your vote to be the nominee for the Republican nominee for governor this November, and then she wants to win in November. Hey, Amanda, we wish you all the luck. Anytime you got an issue you want to promote on the chamber, we would love to have you. I consider you a friend. Thank you so much for your leadership and your thoughts on how to fix Virginia and make it stronger again. On behalf of all the small businesses in the Coastal Virginia Chamber, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.